Hey y'all, welcome and welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome. Here we read scary stories, we talk about scary movies, a little bit about some folklore. We do all kinds of spooky stuff here, and I would love to have you if that sounds cool. Also, I am on YouTube, obviously, TikTok, Patreon, and Instagram, and I will link all of those below, as well as where you can send your stories if you have any that you would like for me to read. But we have quite a few today, so get cozy, maybe turn on a light, and let's get into these stories. We always go to the middle of nowhere to go camping. My great-grandmother owns this land. She's still alive. Pushing 90 years old, but still alive. She owns 3 acres by a river. My grandfather passed away around 15 to 16 years ago, so I never met him. I have 4 siblings as well, 1 biological and 1 half 2-step. I'm the oldest. To add, me and my biological sister are very sensitive to the supernatural. I'm not as sensitive to it as she is. I'm a practicing Norse pagan, and every time we go up there, I give offerings. Never a living animal. Normally it's just wood or driftwood. This time there were 3 deer antler sheds, about 1-inch chunk and about as thick as a thumb, with Norse runes that I carved into them. I buried one by the fire pit, and the other 2 was down the path to the river, which is around 100 to 125 meters. I buried them in a little clearing by the river. I was on my last one, and I put it in the ground, and as I faced the rune at me, there was a feeling that something was watching. I threw it up to me being on the edge of the woods alone. There was an animal, most likely a raccoon. Then after filling the hole, the mood shifted. I felt so angry and sad. I don't know why, and I realized it was sunset and it was just getting dark. I'm alone. So then I walk out of there, so the thing that was watching me didn't follow. Then I went to my family down the dirt road picking berries to my great-grandmother's house. Soon my 14-year-old sister started to feel the presence. Many of the family members have felt it and always feels off when we go up there. But she saw something. Our youngest sister was running in front of her, and she kept telling her to stop running. She told me she felt something nearby. She didn't feel safe, especially with the little one leading. She was telling us to turn back to the parents real quick. As soon as our little sister started to go back, my bio sister said she saw the carving of a face. She said it was huge, probably 4 feet tall. She looked back at the family, and then back at the tree line, and it was gone. But now there were spirits looking back at her the entire time she walked back to that house. I felt something watching me too when I walked down that dirt road. As far as I know, nothing followed us home. My home is saged every so often. My mom's a practicing witch too. I have a question. Do protection symbol tattoos work? I also have other stories if you're interested. And they asked, the rest of this seems like personal information, so I'm not gonna share that. But they asked what all they could do for protections. But to answer your question about protection tattoos, they definitely work. I would look into it. You know, you need to think about it for a really long time, make sure it is what you want to do. But yeah, I mean, they definitely work. If you don't want anything as permanent as a tattoo, you could draw one on you with a Sharpie and just touch that up every so often. All right, let's get into the next story. I love watching your videos and thought it might be fun to send in one of my own scary stories. When I was around 8 or 9, my Uncle Joe, who was in prison, passed away. He was supposed to come home that Friday, and he passed away that Monday. To get ready for his homecoming, my nanny had a room made up just for him, but after he passed, me and all the younger kids were terrified to sleep in there. Well, one night, all of my cousins stayed the night, but there wasn't enough room for everyone to sleep in a bed, so some of them made pallets on the floor in the living room. I slept on the couch, and 2 of the girls on a pallet, and 2 in my grandmother, Nanny's bed. That left 1 kid having to sleep in my uncle's room. We'll call her Mandy. She was the youngest, and she was so scared to sleep alone. Nanny told her that she would get ready for bed, and she would come sleep in there, but Nanny fell asleep in the recliner and didn't make it in there. When Mandy and Nanny woke up, Nanny said, "I'm sorry, baby girl. I fell asleep. Please don't be mad." Mandy said, "It's okay, Nanny. Uncle Joe held me all night, and I wasn't even scared." She was probably 4 years old, and I never met him before. A few weeks after that, I had a similar experience. I was asleep on the couch, and a different cousin, we can call her Sarah, was sleeping on a pallet right by the couch. I woke up at probably 3 in the morning because I heard someone crying. It was Sarah. She was having a nightmare. So I started to get up to comfort her when I froze. Standing at the door was that same uncle that had just passed away. I watched him walk over to stroke Sarah's hair, lean down and say, "It's okay, Angel, it's just a dream." I then watched him walk over to where Nanny was sleeping, kiss her on the head and say, "I love you, Mama." He looked at me with a soft smile, winked, and was gone. I hope you enjoy reading this story and have more if you're interested. That one was sweet. That wasn't even scary. I'm always interested in more stories. All right, next story. I recently found your videos and have been thoroughly enjoying them. I have a few stories that I would love to share, and I've always been super in touch with the paranormal and have something I want your opinion on. The first story is my mom's, not mine. This occurred in Wellington, New Zealand. Where my mom finished law school, she moved into a flat with her younger sister, her sister's boyfriend, and their daughter, who was 3. After a few days of living there, something felt off. My aunt's boyfriend would often leave kitchen drawers open, and at night they would hear heavy footsteps stomp down the hallway and kitchen drawers and cabinets slam. There was another ghost. She was a little girl. She would sit outside my mom's bedroom door crying at night. My mom would go check to make sure it wasn't my cousin and would always find her half asleep. One day my cousin was playing in the living room while my aunt and mom were in the kitchen. The ghost child shoved her and they heard her go flying into the wall. My mom rushed into the living room and yelled at the ghost. She told the ghost that it wasn't okay to push people and to go to her room. There was crying and little footsteps running down the hallway. My cousin's bedroom door slammed and locked. The key for the lock was lost by the owner of the flat years before, so they had no way to unlock the door. And the aunt then made my mom apologize to the little ghost. They didn't want the other ghost that they assumed was her father to be upset with them. They moved out of that flat soon after. The next story happened at my grandma's old house. She lived in a small town not far from Wellington. My family would often spend time there 3 to 4 times a week. Me and my cousins, I'll call them L, C, J, and Y, and S for privacy, would always hang out in the spare bedroom or garage. Well, one day we were playing a game in the spare bedroom and decided that we were going to make our own Ouija board. My older cousins, Y and J, said that that was a bad idea and they didn't want to participate. At the time, my youngest cousin was 4 and my oldest cousin was 12. C drew out the letters for the Ouija board and we all sat in a circle. We managed to contact a spirit called Murray. He told us that he wanted to hurt my youngest male cousin S. S was suddenly thrown across the room and up the wall. He was knocked out on impact and was held up by the ceiling for around 5 minutes before he was dropped, and Murray vanished. We hid the makeshift Ouija board and told our parents he fell and hit his head on the edge of the bed. I was talking to my cousins about it the other day, and Elle is the only other person who remembers this, but he's also super in touch with paranormal stuff. There was another ghost in that house who would lock you in the bathroom for up to an hour and would make it go dark. This never happened to any adults, so they never believed us. I did some research on the house after my grandma moved out, and it turns out that the land it was built on used to be a graveyard for a local prison. Something even scarier that I found out was that there was an inmate called Murray who was buried there after being in prison. He was put in jail for doing things to young boys, and then them afterwards. That's something I decided to keep to myself rather than telling Elle. The last story I'm going to share happened more recently. I currently live in a town about a block away from an old graveyard, so there's a bit of paranormal activity here. I quite often see ghosts dressed in full Victorian outfits walking around. For the most part, they're very polite. I've had a few of the ladies take interest in me and will often greet them when I see them. A few months ago, this beautiful lady led me to her grave, and this was an unusual experience as I've had this happen before. When sitting at her grave, I saw my mother standing in the opposite direction of the graveyard, except it wasn't my mom. She was out of town. That was the first encounter I have with what I believe to be a mimic. I never interacted with it, and I'm unsure of how it attached itself to me. I've seen it in my house many times, and the most recent was when I was talking on the phone to my mother and she was at work. I tried cleansing my house and doing a cord-cutting ritual, but I can't get rid of the mimic. My family doesn't believe when I try to tell them about this stuff, so possibly getting them to do a cord-cutting is out of the question. Do you have any suggestions on how to get rid of this mimic? I would really appreciate it. So if it's just you seeing it, no one else is experiencing it, it probably is attached to you. But what I found out recently is after you do the cord cutting ritual, you need to banish it as well. So you do the cord cutting ritual and then do a banishment of it from your space, or it's just going to linger around and then reattach to people. So there's a possibility that it already has reattached to someone, and that's a whole other thing. But I would attempt to do the banishments regardless and see if that helps. All right, next story. I was on Reddit looking at paranormal encounter stories when I realized I had a picture from screenshotting a video from YouTube, and I always wanted to know what that thing was in the picture. You may show the picture to see if anyone else knows in the comments. I used to watch this one person's videos on YouTube before they felt a little too fake. On this one video I was watching, he was running through the woods away from something, and he dropped the camera and then picked it up really fast. Like blink and you'd miss it. I saw this thing in the video. I had to screenshot it because I never saw anything like it before. Just saying, it took forever to get it right on where I saw this thing. But I wasn't convinced that it was real, so I put it through a filter that turned solid figures into colors. It takes out the non-solids to see if it was my eyes playing tricks on me. I just wanted to ask what it is, and I want to see if you thought it may be fake because it's on a big creator's YouTube channel. His videos do feel like most of the videos are fake, but I don't know, something about this just gives me more questions than answers. Okay, personally to me that does not look real. I could be wrong. It just doesn't look real to me, or it could be a trick of the light of something. I don't know. It doesn't look real to me. What do you guys think? Anyways, on that note, we are going to sign off for the day. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you enjoyed those stories. I'll see you tomorrow.